Legends, welcome back. Today is definitely going to be a different video because, as you know, when I bring this mic out, it means we're going to be sat here for a hot second, so I'd recommend go grabbing a drink, a snack, anything to get you through this. We're going to be talking about the hit reality TV show Married to Jonas, which aired on E! in 2012. This show showed us what life would be like if you were in the relationship between Danielle DeLisa and Kevin Jonas, who at this moment in time were newlyweds and therefore were Danny and Kevin Jonas. If you live under a rock, you may not know who Kevin Jonas is. Sure, he may be the less known Jonas brother, but nonetheless he's still a Jonas brother. And if you don't know who a Jonas brother is, or you don't know who the Jonas brothers are, there's no saving you. And I hate to think that kids these days don't know who the Jonas brothers are, because that's where I grew up, and to think kids these days don't know who them. Anyway, also a little disclaimer, I know Danielle's name is Danielle, but literally no one really refers to her as Danielle, so throughout this I'm going to be referring to her as Danny, because that's what most people on the show called her anyway, unless they were annoyed at her. So hopefully if you're here, we're all on the same page, we all know who the Jonas brothers are, I don't really need to go over that. You are aware of Nick, Kevin and Joe, and how this show focuses solely on Kevin Jonas and his relationship with his wife, Danielle. Danny. And there's really not much more to the show than that main premise. And honestly, I was hooked. I grew up with the Jonas Brothers, so yes, I was going to consume Jonas Brothers content. I love to be nosy, and this show sounded perfect. I grew up in the era of Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, and the Jonas Brothers, so it was a no-brainer to me to watch this. I was curious about this show as well, because I don't remember it being a big thing, and no one really brings it up or talks about it. Not around me anyway. I haven't heard anyone talk about this show or reminisce on it. It's just kind of been forgotten. So I'm bringing it back up because I'm haunted by copyright claims at the minute. So I thought, let's just do something where we won't be having any copyright claims, hopefully, although I will be showing some clips of Married to Jonas, if they allow it, if they let me. If not, I can reenact some scenes. But I will try and sneak in what I can, and I hope it doesn't come down to me having to reenact scenes, because I really don't want to. So let's dive in to season 1 of Married to Jonas. We start with episode 1, Dinner with the In-Laws, and you're going to see that every episode title involves the in-laws. I don't know why. I don't know why that was a thing, because I thought this show was about Danny and Kevin, and I guess the in-laws are a part of that, but I thought it was mainly about them. But anyway, every single episode title has the in-laws. We instantly start out the bat with the love between Kevin Jonas and Danny being love at first sight, and they really want to sell us on this like Disney almost love, and in all fairness it seems like it kind of was. They talk about how they were on vacation and Danny and Kevin met, and she used to just be this, you know, humble hairdresser back from where she was from, and Kevin's always been pop star, pop boy group man Kevin Jonas. What I was surprised about though is we don't even make it 30 seconds into the show before getting like a fart joke, and that is normal for kids TV, but this was on E! This was Reality Central. I did not expect to see a fart joke, to say the least. I think they were just trying to sell themselves as relatable. They were like, yeah, common people fart, we can fart too, so they did that, and it wasn't Kevin or Danny who farted, it was the father of Danny, Bucky, but we'll get into him later on. Now, this show is filled with so many golden moments, and they don't disappoint at the start of the show. We start with Kevin Jonas seriously getting annoyed at his dog, Macy, and he says, "Get in, Macy," and it's so funny. It's just, I can't take him seriously, and they open it up with him being serious like that, and it's just, I can't believe that's the first proper thing we see from this show.
Get inside, Macy.
Also though, I don't know why I ever doubted it, but Kevin Jonas is out here truly living in a mansion. That is a big ass house with a big ass yard. He has got a lovely house. I could only ever wish to afford one like that, and I never will. But I still don't know why I ever doubted it, because he is a Jonas brother. What else did I think was happening? The show gets better though, because this episode, after Kevin gets upset with his dog Macy, he and Danny then start to discuss their bowel movements, and if anyone knows me and follows me on my Instagram, they know I tend to talk about my bowels a lot. I keep you guys updated, whether you want it or not. And Kevin and Danny start talking about blowing up the toilet.
Did you like blow that up?
Yeah, absolutely. guess I should wait.
Kevin's all like, that was a plonker in there. And Danny's like, don't worry, I won't go in now. Maybe I'll wait a minute. I reckon Kevin Jonas sharts out some hefty lumps. And, you know, they're just reiterating, they are relatable. They are just like me and you. They also talk about their bowels. What I do find kind of tragic about this show, straight out the bat, is Kevin Jonas is sat there saying like, oh, I finally have a day off, finally got time to myself. But then I'm thinking, do you really? Because you're literally out here filming a reality show that this isn't a day off. You're still working. And it just shows me how contorted that industry is, that even though he's filming a reality show, it's seen as like almost a day off, but it's not. And we know reality TV isn't always reality, so some of it is probably acted up and therefore not a day off. Danny and Kevin proceed to be all lovey-dovey with each other in their mega mansion, and he's like, what do you want to do with your day? And Danny's like, shopping! To which Kevin isn't impressed because he's thinking, let's get something else into business, you know? You know? I didn't want to know. Then Danny's father interrupts and Kevin has a look on his face like his arch nemesis has arrived. So we learn that Danny's family and her father specifically have a habit of not knocking when they show up to anyone else's house. They kind of just let themselves into people's houses if the door is open. But this is what confuses me, is Kevin doesn't seem comfortable with it and doesn't seem to enjoy the fact that they do this. Like, he seems kind of sour about it. But then why are you leaving the door open? Just lock it. Take away their keys. I don't know. But there will be no Bucky hate in this household. Bucky is again Danny's father, and he is the national treasure of this season. They immediately start to frame Danny's father as somewhat overbearing, but overall a lovable guy. Like, he's harmless, but he doesn't know when to stop. Because when they're talking about Kevin and his parents coming over for dinner in a couple days, Danny's father is all in with what the catering menu should be and what they need to get. But I'm just saying, a man knows his food, and that he does. You will see that later on, just you wait. As soon as the dad leaves though, you know what Kevin's mind is back to. The bedroom. Now I'm happy for them. Good for you, being in love with each other and keeping the spark alive. But did I need to see Kevin slapping his wife's ass? Kevin Jonas. No, I didn't. As the day goes on, Kevin and Danny head to a charity event where on the way we learn Danny is quite an anxious person, and when it comes to life in general, not just going to events. Danny is telling Kevin about how anxious and scared she is for this event, and he's all like, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Of course it's not a big deal, Kevin, when you're a Jonas brother. You've grown up doing this. You know no different. And how also is it not a big deal when they pan the cameras? Reese Witherspoon is there. And you're saying it's not a big deal. Danny honestly seems like such a sweetheart though, as she talks about her nervousness on carpets, and it's very relatable. Because I too would worry about my hair sticking out and having random stuff in my teeth. That's a very normal reaction, I think, to have if you're in the public eye.
I know she can handle it. She's been to so many at this point, but no matter if it's dinner with a business partner or if it's going to the Grammys, she's going to get as nervous for each.
I know once we get to the city, I get more nervous.
It is also quite sweet as well because Kevin does mention he feels a tad guilty for dragging Danny into this lifestyle with him, because if it wasn't for him, she wouldn't really have to do any of this, and this wouldn't be something that would be putting so much pressure on her all this time. We get some tea though whilst Danny is out with her mother Angela and her older sister Dina and her younger sister Katie, as Danny expresses how Mrs. Jonas, Denise, is very loud and quite intimidating, whereas Danny is the opposite. She is quiet and reserved, so you see how we've got some clashing personalities there. Danny's mum, her suggestion is, don't be like that. Just don't. Change your personality. It's that simple. To an anxious person. If it was that easy, I think she would have done that by now. It's literally as helpful as saying, oh, you're sick? Don't be sick. But there's definitely a history of the Jonas brothers' mother picking on Danny because Dina makes a comment of like, oh no, what will happen if you don't make everything from scratch for their meal?
Oh God, what is she gonna think of you if you don't make everything from scratch, Danielle? Are you gonna have an apron on and be stirring a big pot when they come in? Welcome, y'all.
So obviously, Denise does have a few things to say here and there, and that she does. And of course now this is the pilot episode, so we had to have the Jonas Brothers appear in it at some point. So we cut to Kevin in the studio with his brothers, in case you have forgotten he is a Jonas brother. Love as well how they give the boys name cards, as if I don't know who Joe and Nick Jonas are. That was not necessary, but okay. In the studio, they're writing a song for their upcoming album when things get a little tense up in the atmosphere, okay? Kevin keeps throwing out ideas for the song. He's like, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we add in this? What if we do this lyric? And Nick gets so fed up to the point that he starts to ignore Kevin even exists. Which is so petty and so funny because it's so childish and it really shows their brother dynamic, and I loved seeing a glimpse of that. It's just so funny. I need to put in a clip of that because it's priceless.
What about on the edge of nowhere? What about on the edge of nowhere?
We'll be the kings. I think it should be we'll be the kings.
Yep. You hear what I said, Nick? Nick?
Back at the Jonas residence, so the Danny and Kevin residence, Danny is preparing food for the Jonases when they get there later in the day with her mother Angela and her sister Dina, when it comes up to the topic that certain food needs to be made in certain ways because obviously some of the Jonases may have allergies or one of them doesn't like too much salt, something like that. But Danny hits us with this gem. When you're making it for company, you want it to just taste good. You don't worry about their health. Thank God she's not a chef. Like, yes, girlie, I get what you mean. I support you. But when it's actual health issues, then bestie, you need to listen. Like, we do worry. In the kitchen, though, Danny gets humbled by Dina very quickly when she's using some of the appliances. I think it's like a dishwasher or something. And Danny's like, no, you're using it wrong. That's not how you use this. And Dina says, she hits us with another gem. We don't all have spaceships for a kitchen. And she's so right, because to open this dishwasher thing, Danny had to press these weird buttons and it would all move weirdly. Like, it moves on its own. I've never had kitchen appliances that move on their own. I'm not in that tax bracket. So I love to see their dynamics all play out, and I love to see them getting humbled because, yes, you may fart, you may talk about your bowels, but at the end of the day, you were all living in this mega mansion with these spaceships for kitchens, and the rest of us peasants could never comprehend that. Whilst in the kitchen as well, though, we discover another issue for Danny with the Jonases is, as the first daughter-in-law, she doesn't exactly know where she fits in their family yet, which also is quite interesting because at this point in time, I think they've been together for quite a while, her and Kevin. Although actually it might have only been a couple years. So fair enough. And also, yeah, I can see the struggle being the first daughter-in-law with an all-boy family. That's tense. That's intense. No thank you. Tensions begin to rise again though when Kevin arrives into the kitchen. He comes home from the shops with items Danny asked him for, but all the women immediately are like, no, you've messed up. We asked you to get a cake. That is not a cake. And yes, it is a cake, but I totally understand the Lisa woman because they are so right. The cake Kevin bought is definitely not a cake you would serve to a whole group of people. That's feeding 2 people. Who is this cake feeding? But because of this, they all tell him to launch his ass back to the shops and go pick up a more suitable cake. But Kevin fumbles the bag because just as things were getting lighthearted, he makes things weird. And I understand Danny's frustration here. It's still only surface level drama, don't get me wrong. This isn't any reality TV high stakes here. But it's Kevin Jonas. What do you want? The stakes aren't going to be that high. So basically, Danny says, do you want a banana in your bed? As like a threat if he doesn't go and get the stuff at the shops. And Kevin responds, I don't know what that means. Should we talk about this right now? Your mum's here. And he says that in a sort of suggestive way, like twisting what Danny said to be dirty-minded. And I understand her frustration in this moment, because it can be annoying when people twist your words that were purely innocent into something that it completely wasn't, especially in front of your family, especially as well if your mum or dad are present. Like, that could be kind of embarrassing. And Dani clarifies that she feels making those jokes in the presence of her parents and her family is disrespectful and she's not used to that. And again, she reiterates that he did embarrass her in front of her mother and it's not something she appreciates. And yeah, I understand it, because the last person you want to embarrass you is your partner. Dani is proper mad at Kevin at this point, back turned to him and all, and he says, "Come on, it was a joke," to which Dani responds, "No one's laughing." She ended him. That was so... I loved that. But all is quickly solved when Kevin apologises like any smart man would, and the drama is instantly fizzled out. Again though, Dani is our relatable queen. We hear the doorbell ring, and she says, "I've got butterflies. The Jonases are here." Because same girly. If the Jonas Brothers arrived at my door, I'd also have butterflies for different reasons, but they'd be there. In through the door walks Denise with her husband, Kevin Sr. That's right, Kevin Sr. arrives. I am embarrassed to admit I had no idea at this point in time that Kevin was named after his father and that his father was called Kevin Sr. I feel like my life changed and that my life has been a lie. I don't know why I just thought his dad's name was not Kevin. Kind of egotistical though to name your child after yourself. And also, just to put everyone's mind at ease, yes, the fourth Jonas brother is present. Frankie is in the building. Denise starts to stir the pot straight away though. Like, she comes swinging with some nasty behaviour that no one asked for. Dani says, "It's hot today, isn't it?" Very harmless thing to say. You don't need to be mean about it. Joe does what most people would do and he agrees. He's like, "Yeah, it is a hot day today, you are right." Whereas Denise comes in and she's saying, "Is it hot? Is it?" Kevin seems oblivious to the whole situation, because then he goes on to saying that Denise and Dani have this great relationship, but then in the next sentence, he sums up the whole issue between the two.
It's hot today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
Yeah. Come in. Is it hot?
The relationship with Dani and my mom is a great one. There's some pressure on Danielle, definitely, because she is the first Jonas woman other than her.
Denise is basically a pick-me, is what we discover, because she is used to being the only woman in a house of boys, and I guess that would make sense. It's a shame, because you'd think you'd want to have like another girlfriend in the house, like you'd finally get that girl. But no, she's kind of a pick-me. Yeah, so we have that issue happening. Although, all that being said, Dani and Denise do share a few laughs in the kitchen, and it's really nice to see. Also, I don't know how it slipped my mind that the Jonas Brothers are a religious family, because they're out here praying before their meal, and I forgot as well that they were wearing purity rings back in the day. How did I forget that cultural moment? Anyways, it's mealtime and everyone is seated, ready to enjoy their food, when Kevin Sr. does what Kevin Sr. does best. And he turns this family meal into a business meeting. I would actually eliminate myself if I had one of my first days off in a while and then my dad turned it into a business meeting. That would be my 13th reason, thank you very much. And then, just as everyone is celebrating the fact that the Jonas Brothers' first concert back will be at Radio City, out of nowhere, Joe says to Kevin and Dani,
"Is this the time you tell us that you guys are about to have a baby?"
Like, what was that? Who asked, "How is that your business?" and pipe down? And oh my God, do I feel so bad for Dani at this family dinner. All the Jonases chime in with how they need to be a part of the conversation around Kevin and Dani having kids because it affects them too. And yeah, it does. But having kids, getting pregnant is something so personal, and having to discuss it like it's another business meeting feels so inhuman, so disconnected, so weird, and it's so awful. The whole discussion around Dani and Kevin having kids and the way everyone was scheduling it in like another business event left a really poor taste in my mouth, and Dani, blink twice if you need help.
I can't believe that we're talking about a baby with his whole family and when to have it.
We can plan things out.
If you were pregnant...
Yeah, we'd get creative.
It also really irked me as well that Kevin didn't seem to grasp how intrusive that conversation was and could be for Danny. Not even just for himself, but for her. So yeah, not a great moment. And, you know, you could look at it on the flip side. He is Kevin Jonas. He's probably used to every single angle of his life being planned out. So to him, doing this wouldn't be so weird. But still, are you okay? You have your family out here planning your wife's pregnancy. This issue only then gets reiterated when Kevin and Danny are in the bedroom and he gets really kind of defensive about the whole thing. Because Danny kind of brings up how she wouldn't really want to be on tour and pregnant or like raising kids on the tour. And fair enough. That's a very valid point to make, and it shouldn't be shot down the way Kevin instantly shoots it down. He gets very heated about this, and I mean heated. He takes it very personally, I've noticed, and he does that a lot in the show. Don't you worry, we're going to get to it. He kind of tells her like she can't make it an issue. She just can't, because she's going to have to go on tour. Like, you can't make it an issue, girlie. It's not an issue. Then Danny's saying about how she never gets a say in any of this when she should, because it's very personal and it really should only be a discussion for the two of them. So I'm totally on Danny's side. Bruh, though, Kevin is just kind of mean-spirited in this entire conversation. Everything Danny says is so valid, but he doesn't hear her because he doesn't want to. Like, we can chime it all down to that. He does not want to hear her, because every time she says something valid, he shuts her down and he moves on to his next point. And Danny makes some really good comments. She makes a comment about having a baby is her dream and her dreams are still important to her, and she mentions how she loves that Kevin gets to live his dream of being on stage and how she wishes he could see this and do the same for her in regards to having a baby.
Not even we. I never have a say-so in anything.
What kind of say-so do you want?
Your dream was to be on stage, and I love seeing you smile on stage, and I don't want to take that away from you, but the same thing goes for me. I have dreams too.
It's been 3 years since we've done an album. It's been 3 years since we've gone on tour. Like, it's time now that we have to do this, and you know that. And we have to live, we have to eat, we have to breathe. Like, this is what I do.
And rightfully so. She doesn't want to raise a baby on the tour. Like I said before, she wants to do it at home with her family. That's normal. I get that. Like, you do you, bestie. And again, I love that she's saying that this is my dream. Like, you have yours. Please let me have mine. Kevin finishes this conversation by saying, there's ups, there's downs to marriage, and I'm still learning. Yes. Yes, you are. And so we end the show how we started the show. Kevin making a suggestive comment. He lets Danny know he likes the way her butt shakes when she walks away from him. Now, I don't know if this is the best time to make a comment like that just after the little squabble they have, but who am I to judge? This now brings us on to episode 2, Prom Night with the In-Laws. We're on episode 2, and I'm continuing to learn that Kevin has quite the dirty mind. Maybe some would even say immature. Some would say. Which would make sense though because of his upbringing, and they say that people get stuck in the age they were when they got famous. So maybe there's some weight to that discussion with Kevin Jonas. We start the episode with Kevin and Danny going to Fashion Week, and they do so whilst in a helicopter. And Kevin says in this helicopter, I wonder how hard it would be to join the Mile High Club. Clearly Danny isn't so comfortable with these jokes, but who am I to judge? She married him, so clearly she's fine with them to an extent. She must be used to them by now. In this episode though, we do get some casual skinny shaming at Fashion Week as Kevin and Danny are watching these models walk the runway, and they look at one and they say, she needs a hamburger. So original. I just don't believe it's necessary to comment on other people's bodies. Some people are way more comfortable doing it when I don't think you should be. But also this was back in 2012, 2011. People were a lot more comfortable commenting on other people's looks, appearances, especially with how the press was at that time. We hit one of our first scandals though. Kevin and Danny are late to church. Oh no, I know. How dare they? They will go to hell. There's a little light-hearted drama as Danny's parents question why they were late, and we have the stereotypical, oh, my wife, you know, she can never get ready on time, but I, the husband, I am always ready. And it's like, yeah, no shit, because all men have to do is put on a suit, tie, call it a day. Women have so much to do. We have our makeup, we have our hair, we have the dress, okay? So, like, I don't want to hear that nonsense. Maybe you should learn how to do your wife's hair, Kevin, so you can help her. After church, Danny's dad, Bucky, and Kevin go to the bakery to buy some food, and the mother of Danny, Angela, does not want Bucky to be buying so much food. But as I said, the man loves his food, he knows his food, and therefore when they return back to the Kevin and Danny residence, Bucky has like 7 bags of food for around like 7 to 8 people. So he did go overboard. But I love this man, so I don't care.
Half a pound of prosciutto, half a pound of mortadella. Give me a twist. Give me a high-rise slice, too.
We don't need that much bread. We don't eat it. Like, we're on like a carb-free diet, me and Danny. Hey, guys.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh my God. Wait a minute. What are you doing?
It's not my
Dad,
fault.
it's only us.
Danny's oldest sister, Dina, then starts to stir the pot with the youngest sister, Katie, as we just heard the father kind of get sentimental and talk about how it's always hard to let the youngest child go and flourish on their own. And he said to talk about how it feels like they're slipping away and he can feel it now with the youngest Katie. Dina out here, she starts to make some claims, some comments. They're seemingly harmless, but we know what they mean. She's out here asking, who will be Katie's sleepover roommate when she goes away for prom? Like, who's it going to be? And I think everyone in the room picks up on the fact that she's insinuating that Katie and her boyfriend, Nick, not to be confused with Nick Jonas. No, Nick Jonas is not this underage girl's boyfriend, don't you worry. Another Nick this is. But Dina's definitely insinuating that these two are going to like sleep together after prom. I'd be so mortified if anyone brought that up when I was 16. I'd want to crawl in a hole and die. And I'd say Katie handles it quite well. She makes it clear she doesn't appreciate it when people ask her about this, and fair enough, it's very personal, you don't owe it to anyone, but she does follow it up by saying she will not be sleeping with Nick at prom, so there you go everyone, shut up.
So what's like the situation when you're down the Poconos?
What do you mean, what is the situation?
Who are your roommates?
The things you're saying are just really not appropriate.
I'm inappropriate.
The question really is like, are you sleeping with Nick?
Can I be honest really quick? I don't like when you talk to me about this stuff.
Because of the discussion around prom though, we also learned that Kevin never actually had a prom because he was working on tour and probably with Disney Channel at the time. But also the tour he was on was with Avril Lavigne, so you've won. That's better than prom. Prom is mid, okay? It's not that good. I think the expectations are so high, and also in the UK, we don't really care about prom, so Kevin, you're not special. Some of us didn't even have a prom. I had a prom. But a lot of people in the UK never had a problem. But boy, do I love the drama in this show because it's so low stakes. It's so unserious. But Kevin is set out to go out and do some racing alone. He wants this to be a solo task. When Danny suggests her brother Michael, along with her father Bucky, should join him. But Kevin again makes it explicitly clear to Danny, no, he wanted to do this on his own. He just, he didn't really want to have anyone else. And that's fair. We understand we all have those days where you just want to do something for yourself and be alone with yourself. That's very valid. But it does get a bit awkward because Danny did kind of invite them and now there's no really turning back. So, sorry. Danny and Dina take Katie prom dress shopping at a place in New York called Giovanni. And I know these dresses are expensive because they state that celebrities shop here. And I know those prices are skyrocketing, again not in this tax bracket. Whilst dress shopping, Katie concerns both of her older sisters when she starts to ask, how do you know when the guy you're with is the one you want to spend the rest of your life with? And immediately Dina's like, whoa, we need to put an end to this. I feel like though, because of this, neither of the sisters were really helpful. Both of them get quite defensive about the topic, and it's weird because when Danny met Kevin, she was 20 and he was 19. So it's not like they were extremely old at that point, and they probably hadn't had too many past relationships at that age. I don't know where this judgment comes from, where they're like, ooh, Katie, how dare you want to stay with the guy you're with when you're 16, 17? And I get it, that is a very young age, but still. You really aren't the ones to judge here. Especially not Danny. Because my boyfriend and I, we were 18 and 19 when we met, yeah. And now it's been 3 going on 4 years. I'd say we're pretty sturdy. I have no complaints. And he's the guy I want to spend my life with. So I already know that. It may seem really naive to some people watching. They might think, oh, you don't know what you're on about, and fair enough. Be like Danny and Dina. See what I care. But I just think they could have been more positive about Katie asking this and being happy for her that she's with this boyfriend that she does envision spending a lot of time with and wanting to spend her life with, even if she is young, because then it means she's in a positive relationship. Later on in the day though, Kevin and Danny host a pre-prom party for Katie, and we have one of the funniest scenes of the show. Kevin says to Danny, "Did you see how pretty the balloon arch looks?" And then they pan over to the balloons in the backyard, and this ominous music starts playing. It's like really intense for the subject matter, and it's just balloons.
Did you see how pretty the balloon arch looks?
It's the moving of the balloons and hitting things.
It's just hilarious because these are the least threatening things I've ever seen in my life, and they're playing this music that they're not really warranted of. Turns out though, Danny's extremely scared of balloons. I don't know where the fear come from, but she just says she does not like the way they move. Nuh-uh, not for her. This just kind of told me though that they were struggling to find drama for the show, that they put that in there because it's so lame. Sorry. Balloons with ominous music. They were grasping at straws here. In the house, Danny, Dina, Kevin, Angela, Bucky. They gave me no hope about ever hosting a party in my own home because whilst in Kevin's mansion, Danny's mother Angela questions how Kevin will be able to fit 30 school kids in his big ass downstairs area. She's like, I don't see it, I don't envision it. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? My guy has a mansion. How do you think they can't fit in this house? I'm so glad though that in the UK prom isn't a big deal like it is in the US. Like, I would eliminate myself if my family did what the DeLisa family did as Katie descends the stairs, because they all just wait at the bottom for her. And she's got to come all the way down these. No, thank you. I would have a heart attack. I would pass out. I would not want to do that. I'd be like, nah, I'm not doing it. Yeah, they're literally all waiting at the bottom of the stairs for her, like it's season 1, episode 19 of The Vampire Diaries. Yeah, I know, my Miss Mystic Falls episode. The dad, Bucky, though, is a little sweetheart, because he sees Katie come down the stairs and he starts to get really teary-eyed. He starts to cry a little bit, and he's happy crying, and I think it was such a sweet moment, because he didn't do anything to take away from Katie's moment, but he was having a moment himself as the parent, seeing his last youngest child starting to grow up and slip out of his reach, and you can see for him it was definitely a reflective moment. In the evening, with everyone out of the house, Danny leaves Kevin some notes on the fridge, and they say for him to meet her in the basement. Now, if we put the audio they used for the balloons over the top of this scene, we'd have a totally different vibe and envision for what was about to happen. But they do share a really cute moment together as Danny throws Kevin his own prom in the basement of their house. It's just the two of them, but I think it's a really nice moment.
Oh my god.
Welcome to your prom. So now you can say that you've been to prom.
I can officially say I've been to prom.
Now you won't be sad.
And it's a big deal because there are balloons everywhere, and Kevin points out how, again, Danny hates balloons, she's afraid of balloons, and so it was a big thing for her to get all these balloons put up for him. It's just such a wholesome moment of reality TV. She even went out of her way to get 2006 printed on the balloons and banners, because that would be the year he would have had his prom had he had it. But again though, in classic Kevin Jonas fashion, he's got to make a sweet moment into something sexual. He mentions, oh, you know, most people on prom night would expect to get lucky. Haha. Good for you, Kevin, if you do. But let's just let this be a wholesome moment. This was so pure, this was so cute, so adorable. And again, now I totally see why the whole banana incident earlier in the episode was an issue for Danny, because if Kevin's like this all the time, it can be tiring. Sometimes enough is enough. It's like, Kevin, stop. Kevin, seriously, stop. Episode 3, Texas with the in-laws. Again, do not understand what the big deal is about having the in-laws in every episode, but we are here, we are thriving, and this is what this is, so get on board. Just before the Jonas World Tour starts, Kevin says he wants to spend some time with his family, so they head down to the Jonas compound, which is just another mega mansion outside of Dallas, Texas. It's got this leather style to it that gives "we own guns." It also has some Jonas memorabilia, so there's that as well. In the beginning of this episode, Denise does have a bit of a redemption arc, as she says she feels her home is complete when Danny and Kevin are in it. You know who else steps through the door though? Kevin's grandparents, Fran and Jerry. Jerry comes out swinging with a pregnancy joke about, haha, you're not pregnant, are you, Danny? You're not going to tell me now? It's a bit uncomfortable, a little bit. I forgive him though, as he does have liver cancer, so sure, go ahead, be a bit of a menace to society whilst you still can. It also does make sense why he would be asking for grandkids or about grandkids, because obviously he knows his time is limited and he's probably thinking, I would like to see this part of their life. But also, again, it's not your business and it's not your place to say. So I also believe as well he probably would have been asking the same thing had he not had cancer. So choose your fighter there. We have some more people enter the residence. One of Kevin's friends called Kavanaugh arrives, as well as a man called Bob. Bob is seen to be like the Jonas family mentor, whatever that means. And he's a man. He's definitely on a mission. As soon as Bob arrives, he tells Denise that he was showed something by the Lord. And I knew straight away this was going to be interesting. This was not going to be subtle either. And I knew it was going to be intrusive. And yes, it is very intrusive. Bob starts talking about how it's time for Kevin and Danny to start a family. And this is a whole family gathering. Like, it's not just Danny and Kevin sat here. You've got the Jonases. You've got Danny and Kevin. You've got Bob and Kavanaugh. You've got Fran and Jerry, the grandparents. This is a packed house right now. It is not the time to start talking about when this couple should start having kids and basically planning it for them. And it's so inappropriate. Danny even starts to cry and tear up. And I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it also is the fact that they all keep putting pressure on her.
Okay, Bob, you got the floor.
What is going on right now?
That God was wanting me to talk to you about you starting a family. Trust God. Don't be stressed out or feel any pressure at all.
It just shocks me that no one in the room realised how inappropriate this discussion was to have in front of a whole group of people before consulting them first. Because I can't believe the Jonas family keep trying to barge in and plan this pregnancy or the whole baby situation for them. Because hold up, this is not another business meeting. This is not a business situation. This is a personal, private matter between a married couple. Like, back off. Bob does say, though, to feel no pressure and to just relax, because when it happens, it will happen. But I may argue it is hard to relax when they keep shoving it down their throats that they need to like have kids and that the time is now and that the Lord is like, let's do it now. Shut up. This time Kevin is even aware it's inappropriate though, and it even seems to irk him a bit. We see it in the episode because he says, my mum thinks everyone should be a part of this conversation, but then proceeds to kind of do nothing about it for a little bit. In this moment I was disappointed that he didn't say anything sooner, but it's only early in the episode, so what do I know? It clearly makes Danny very uncomfortable though, and it'd be even more uncomfortable for her to have to tell Denise, like, hey, or the whole of Kevin's family, like, hey, please stop this isn't something I want to be discussed. It is him who should tell them. Privately, Kevin and Danny consult Bob, which is what should have happened all along. Danny opens up to Bob about her anxieties around having a baby, and just in general. Her anxiety is so bad she is actually on medication for it, but Bob eases her mind about pregnancy and lets her know when she is blessed with a child, all will be at ease. Your anxiety will disappear. It definitely won't get worse. After Bob leaves them though, we circle back to how Danny worries about Kevin being on tour when she's pregnant. Before Danny can even finish her sentence, Kevin gets defensive. Shocking, I know. It must be so tiring trying to talk to him though, because it feels like he just goes from 0 to 100. I do understand Kevin's point of view in the conversation because he is frustrated that Danny keeps putting him into a group with his brothers, whereas he is saying he's on his own path in life. And yes, they may be the Jonas brothers, but separately from that, he is still his own person with his own wants, needs, desires, and goals. And having a baby with Danny is something that he does want.
I'm afraid that, like, okay, when you start touring and everything...
Oh my God, listen to me. I'm on my own journey. Do you compare yourself to others, Danny?
No, I don't compare myself to others.
So stop doing that with me and my brothers, because it's not the same.
However, I think he should approach the topic in a nicer way that's not so defensive and condescending to Danny. Just my 2 cents. Denise and Dina go out for tea in a hotel in Dallas with some of Denise's friends. Fran, the grandmother, is also present. And as an anxious girly myself, I'd be feeling a little bit anxious and awkward. It looks somewhat awkward as well, seeing all of them just sat in this hotel restaurant with some tea and stuff. And it depends on the company. I would enjoy it with the right company, but I think that it would not help my anxiety at any moment being sat in this little cult circle with these women. And they're doing this whilst all the boys have gone out to do some shooting. pew pew pew. They've got those guns. They're not a music video shoot, but shoot. Nick Jonas hits us with this impeccable one-liner.
Nothing better than having a gun in your hands. Just makes you feel all warm inside.
Remember when I said their house looks like the kind of house where they would own guns? Just know the Jonas Brothers are armed. Allegedly. And I realised as well, the more I watched this show, the more I sometimes wish I didn't. It definitely changed my perception of the Jonas Brothers just a little bit, although I did go into this not really knowing much about them in the first place, except for the fact that I grew up seeing them and knowing of their presence. Whilst they're out shooting though, businessman Kevin Sr. does what he does best and again turns a family moment into a business meeting. He discusses about how the Jonas Brothers will be on tour for 4 months, with the tour starting in Australia. Only issue though is that Kevin wants Danny to come on tour with him, but obviously that's a lot to ask of someone to do, even if they are your partner. Like, they also need to have their own life. Back at the tea with the girlies though, Danny does admit she is actually excited to go back on tour with Kevin, but she is, again, we had the same issue pop up, she is hesitant to have a baby on tour. She wouldn't really want to do that, and then Denise chimes in, because Denise does that best, and she says, I did it.
The idea of having an infant is hard.
But I did it.
I
I
know.
did it all. Infant, toddler.
But that's not the point, Denise. Sure, you did it, but that was your choice. Danny does not want to do it, and that's her choice. Simple. Again, Danny states that she wishes the conversations around babies would just stop coming up, because again, it's a very personal topic. Kevin finally realises it's all becoming too much for Danny, the whole discussion around babies, and that everyone needs to stop pushing Danny on the baby topic, including himself. He goes to his mum to talk to her about laying off of Danny with the baby talk, and she somewhat hears him. Somewhat. She understands what he says about her advice sometimes sounding like direction rather than guidance, and it can be too much pressure for Danny, but anytime he says something, Denise just brings the conversation back around to herself and making herself the victim. She twists the narrative from Danny being uncomfortable with the baby talk, with Kevin saying she's insufferable to be around. So she did a whole 180 there.
Yesterday, and with Bob, what he had to say was so incredible. I really feel like I would have liked to maybe have done that in private before we did it in front of everybody.
And I thought it might help take some of the pressure off both you and Danny.
For me, though, that's just more pressure.
I mean, I get I'm not easy to be around. I get that I'm impossible.
Did I say that? I didn't even say that, and this is what gets me mad. You go somewhere that it doesn't need to go.
To make matters worse and to prove Denise kind of missed the point, Denise makes a comment about, oh, haha, I would never judge Danny for using paper napkins. Aha, ridiculous. This was a little callback to the first episode where Danny used paper napkins when the Jonases came over, because that's normal, right? Tell me I'm not insane. Tell me this is rich people speak to mock someone for using paper napkins, because what do you mean? That's so normal. I'm so baffled by that. I just think that's such a rich person thing to say. But Kevin lets Denise know this is what he's talking about with Danny and her, that this is an issue, that Denise tends to make these small comments that makes Danny feel very uncomfortable, and that these little comments again and again can become draining, and it's not nice. Denise, despite everything Kevin says, still does not seem to understand or grasp the whole situation here with Danny, and she still gets defensive and reiterates it's just a joke. Now I'm starting to see where Kevin got it from. It's actually a miracle as well in that evening when they had a little toast to the family that no one brought up the baby topic. So someone did listen, because none of the Jonases, Fran and Jerry, none of them bring up, ooh, to the baby when they toast. Because I held my breath waiting for someone to be invasive, but no. Because we made it, guys, we made it. They learned. But you know what they did do? Made it sexual. They say that if you don't look in each other's eyes whilst toasting, you will have bad sexual intercourse for 7 years. Or something like that. And I don't know why they keep doing this at the beginning and end of episodes, making things sexual, but okay. And at this point, I'm just expecting it. Episode 4, In-Law Intervention. We start the episode with a reminder of how famous Kevin Jonas actually is. Here he is at Yogurtland. Shall I say it like the Americans? Here he is at Yogurtland with Danny when he is swarmed by fans. In case you forgot, again, he is a Jonas brother. Probably why most people tune into this show in the first place. The main premise of this episode, though, is Bucky needs to go on a diet and start exercising because he had a heart attack a couple years ago and everyone is concerned about him and his health, and despite that heart attack, he hasn't changed his lifestyle. Another plot point we have in this episode is Dina is set to have her birthday party at the Kevin and Danny residence, but Kevin didn't inform Danny about this, and therefore she only finds out like a couple days before it's going to happen. She was left in the dark. That is not okay, Kevin. Rightfully so, Danny is irritated by him and the fact that he didn't tell her, but he keeps saying to her, it's not a big deal, and that he's got everything handled and to leave everything to him. But Danny says that's not the point, nor is it the case, because she's going to have to chime in at some point. She just feels like she can't trust him to do this, and I've been around enough men in my life to know that this is majority of the time the case. You cannot leave them to do things on their own, sadly, even though they should be because they're grown adults. So I do really feel again for Danny in this moment because Kevin's just failing to see the point. It's at this episode as well that I realised how Kevin Jonas truly was not built for reality TV because nothing much happens. For instance, there's a moment where Kevin is driving a forklift and they try to make it out that he drove the forklift into the gate of his house, but all of this happens off screen. We don't see it on screen. And you're telling me that one of the juiciest things that's happened this season thus far is not caught on camera on your reality TV show? You've got to be joking. I don't believe it. I mean, they even go ahead and show us a bent gate, as if that's the one that he crashed into. But I'm still not buying it because I didn't see it happen. So I still don't believe them. Don't believe it unless I see it. Now, you may be wondering why Kevin would need a forklift. And this is because he wants to plant a tree. He said, ew, all these new houses going up and everyone's looking into the back of my garden, my mega mansion garden. No, cannot have that. It's too much. But then you look at his house and the houses are so far away from him. So I don't think anyone's really looking into your backyard, Kevin. But no, he can't have that. He can't have his neighbours look into his mega mansion. I must get a 35-foot tall tree. Here comes all those golden moments of the show. I'm going to put in a clip because I love it so much. Never ever did I think I needed to see Kevin Jonas open up a parasol. You know those things that you get in pubs if you're here in the UK, the big umbrellas, a parasol? But boy am I glad I did. The speed at which he gets the parasol up tells me that this isn't his first rodeo. Nah, he's done this before. And my gosh, was it impressive.
Boom, that's good.
What I can appreciate about Kevin, though, from seeing this show, is that Kevin is definitely somewhat grounded, because even if he doesn't execute his plans flawlessly, or even well at all for the matter, he still always prefers to give it a go himself than have someone else do it. Remember how I mentioned Bucky's health? Well, buckle up! Angela asks Bucky what he had at the party, and he says he had a salad and some iced tea. But the producers, they're vicious. They call him out immediately. They show us little flashbacks to him indeed not eating a salad or a iced tea. They show clips of him having a hot dog or two, and the Delisas, they let him know they're ashamed of him for this. Because of this, and because he was lying about what he ate, and that he's not taking his health seriously, the Delisas hold an intervention for the man. They tell him they were going to meet up for lunch, and you know my boy Bucky, if there's food involved, he's going to show up. And so he shows up with like a couple bags of food again, and then he just learns it was bait to get him over there.
Oh, hi, Dad. What do you have?
Something to eat.
Put it on the table. We just want to talk to you a minute.
Bucky is also, ironically, very funny. He makes me giggle so much, because I know this is a serious conversation, and he should treat it as such, but I can relate to dealing with kind of traumatic ideas, or events, or experiences, through humour. And that's exactly what Bucky does. Like, I think his child, Michael, says something about how, oh, wouldn't you like to see me, you know, like, have kids, have a family? He's, like, insinuating that, because, you know, he's thinking Bucky's health's declining, and if he keeps on the way he is, then Bucky's not going to be there for any of that. Bucky replies, I'll see you. I'll be up in heaven. Oh, it's bad.
Would you like to see me become successful and go further in my career, this and that, or do you want me to...
I'll see you. I'll be looking down. I'm going to heaven, so
That's
I'm all
not
right.
funny at all.
But it does get too much for his youngest daughter, Katie, and the youngest sibling in general. And she does start to cry and says, you know, she wants him to take this seriously and she wants to have her father as she gets older. And I think seeing that does make Bucky take it a little bit more seriously. And I mean, he took it seriously enough to go to Pilates with his daughters. At this point, Bucky was slowly but surely becoming one of my favourite characters of this show. And I can let you know he is my favourite character in this show, like favourite personality. Because whilst doing Pilates, he has a little toot. It's a little fart moment. And haven't we all been there? His face as well whilst he's trying to do these Pilates workouts feels so relatable because I've never felt more seen. The pressure of Pilates is so real and he shows what everyone feels. I'm surprised though that no one told Bucky to maybe wear a longer pair of shorts whilst doing Pilates, because there were one too many times where I was worried we were going to see a little too much of Bucky that we didn't want to see. We didn't. But I feel like the people in the studio probably did get flashed. Back at home though, Kevin's treat finally arrives and it weighs a grand total of £9,000. It's a whole process to get it into their yard. Their fence has to come down and it can all be put back up. But not only does their fence have to come down, the tiles have to be pulled up for this tree. And it's all because Kevin doesn't want his neighbours seeing into his yard. And fair enough, but they're not even that close. He would not survive the peasant lifestyle of living in like a semi-detached house. Or even an attached house. Well, that's just called like what, a house? What baffles me though is Kevin gets this big ass tree put into his yard, but he already has a bunch of trees around his garden that are already blocking his neighbours' views. So unless they're getting drones or a helicopter, they're not seeing it anyway, Kevin. He was already blocking the neighbours' view, so I'm so baffled why he had to get this 35-foot tall tree. I don't know. I don't care enough. It's just a tree. Let's get into a juicier episode. Episode 5, Emergency in Law. Bucky is an absolute legend. Kevin is reviewing the CCTV footage from their house from when him and Danny were gone, and Bucky was at the house every single day dealing with the upkeep. Like, he was working shifts. They should have gave him some compensation for that. Bucky is an icon, Bucky is a legend, Bucky is the moment. Kevin's dad, Kevin Sr., however, is being honoured in LA as Father of the Year, so the whole family, the whole Jonas family, flies out to celebrate with him at the American Diabetes Association. In case you forgot, our Jonas brother, Nick Jonas, has diabetes, type 1. So that's where the Diabetes Association ties itself in. Remember when they made us think he was going to die? They were like, oh, Nick Jonas has diabetes, everyone! Ah! And we all thought he was on his deathbed. At this Diabetes Association place, Danny again proves she's a very relatable girly, as she does what I believe many of us would do in this situation. She practices basic social interaction. She's out here rehearsing how to say, good to see you. Like, she's going, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. And I feel that to my very core.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Kevin, though, he chose violence. He's out here calling people uglies because he mentions sometimes it's not nice to see people. It's not nice to see you. And sometimes they aren't nice to look at. So keep that in mind next time you go to a Jonas Brothers meet and greet, or if you meet Kevin Jonas and he walks away quickly, just know that you were ugly. If Kevin Jonas is in a rush to finish his conversation with you, he thinks you're ugly. At this Diabetes Association for the Father of the Year award, there is a whole presentation put on the screen where all of the kids have put on, even Danny, they're involved in this video for the father to kind of celebrate him and his achievements as a father and what he's done for them. But when they show the clips, I'm sure they just didn't put it in the show, I'm sure. But it's very evident to me that one Jonas brother, or one Jonas, is missing. Can you guess who it is? If you said Frankie Jonas, you were correct. It is indeed Frankie Jonas who is left out. And I wonder how it feels to him, because does he have unresolved drama with his family over everything? Is he okay? I feel like I'd need years of therapy if I was left out of the ultra famous boy band that my brothers had formed without me and never invited me into. And it definitely doesn't help at one point in the speech when Joe says, when me, Kevin and Nick... I was expecting him to group Frankie in, but nope. He really is the forgotten Jonas brother. But hey, at least they let Frankie up on stage with the rest of the family. Thank God they don't, miss the mark there. I was worried they were going to leave him out, and sadly, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did. Later in the episode, Kevin and Danny get an opportunity to be on cover of Social Life magazine, and they're told that they're going to have 6 pages in this magazine all about them. For this magazine, though, they would also have to throw a party for the Social Life magazine in order to promote it and just get a load of people talking about it, I think. But they are told a helicopter will come to get them for this. Just casual people stuff. It is a lot though, and Danny feels that way too about it. Like, again, this is too much for her to handle. Kevin, however, is all up for it. Danny is very hesitant. She opens up about the fact that she will never be used to being in the limelight with Kevin, and this is a true adjustment for her, and how she doesn't want to open herself up to all this negative talk that can come from being in the spotlight, because she's aware that people think she's ugly and have called her a gold digger in the past, and she just doesn't want that. She doesn't want to hear that. And yeah, I get that. And it is sad that people can be that mean and say things that are so far from the truth, because Danny is stunning, and the fact that she thinks otherwise is truly sad. What's worse as well is you can tell Danny is already a very self-conscious and insecure person, so obviously all of this would not help being in the limelight. And I don't blame her for not wanting to put herself out there for this criticism. Now, Kevin, remember how he said he would stop pressuring Danny about a baby? Well, he does make a sly comment about how just as she's scared to do the magazine cover, it's the same with the baby. You won't know until you try. Here's where I offer my 2 cents. I don't think people should be viewing having a baby that way. I don't think it's something you should be insecure about or thinking, can I handle this? Will this be okay? I think you should be quite secure in knowing that you can raise a child before having a child, because I don't think it's fair to bring a human into this world if you aren't sure of your capabilities in raising that child. Due to Danny's anxiety though, and wanting to be in Kevin's life as a celebrity, she goes to some movement classes, which basically just help you with posing and being natural in front of the camera. And so she does this with her sister, Dina. And now I'm no expert in movement classes, but I think the last person an anxious person wants to do is go to a movement class. So the fact that Danny does this speaks volumes to how much she loves Kevin. Also, I believe the last thing you should ask an anxious person in a movement class to do is crawl. And the photographer guy gets her to crawl. Like, the teacher gets her to crawl. And she proves... no, don't do that to an anxious person. Don't make them crawl on the floor to get them to move. That's so awkward. Oh my lord. It is just a recipe for disaster. But time flies, time moves on. Danny's finished with her movement class and she goes to shoot the magazine cover with Kevin. Can I say yes to the dress? Because Danny looks absolutely stunning in it. Like, she eats it up and she left no crumbs. After the shoot though, Kevin, Danny, Dina, and her husband, Brian, head to Grotto, I think it's called, this restaurant to grab a bite. Here, the same thing about babies and children pop up again. It's a theme that you see throughout this entire season. It's really heavily put into the season. Kevin starts panicking that if they have children any later than the age they are now in the show, which I think would be 25, 26-ish. Correct me if I'm wrong, they may even be a bit younger than that at this point. But yeah, Kevin gets concerned that if they have kids any later than the age they are now, they will be 50 when their kids are 18, and oh no, terrible, how could they manage that? They'll be dead in the ground at 50. They're gonna be orphans as kids. It'll be fine, Kevin. Danny reiterates to Kevin, yes, we do go in circles in the show quite a bit. She reiterates to him that he is not being fair, and again, he has been able to live out his dreams of touring and travelling the world and being in a band, and so it's only fair she eventually gets to have her dreams of raising a family at home. Emphasis of at home. Kevin is quite defensive. Shocking. Who would have guessed? Never happened before. He gets defensive that he was raised on the road and therefore it's fine to raise a child on the road, and that's not the argument here. Like, Danny's not saying it's not fine to do that. She's saying she doesn't want to do that. Two very different things. Dina suggests the two of them should go to couples counselling, and I don't think she's wrong for that. She may have been onto something. To make matters worse though, Kevin then receives like a photo, like the invitation for their party that they're gonna host, and on the front of the invitation is the photo from Danny and Kevin's photo shoot. Also at the dinner, Kevin drops the bombshell on Danny that she's gonna have to address the party that they're hosting. Like, she's gonna have to make a speech. And again, she's an anxious girlie, so this is awful news for her to hear. I can only imagine what was running through her head after he told her that. Like, he sprung that on her. He was like, no, it's best you don't know. It's best. As an anxious person, I want to know everything. I need to know everything down to the last detail, and then I feel a little less anxious about it. But yeah, back to the whole photos being from the photo shoot on the invitation. Danny looks stunning. But obviously we don't all perceive ourselves the way others see us, and as soon as Danny sees it, she starts chewing very aggressively. I can tell it's a stress chew. Even after everyone says how amazing the photo is, you can tell Danny is not happy with this final result, and she feels disappointed in herself, and she even goes on to say she feels as if she can never take photos properly. Kevin tells her, a lot of people would be happy with that photo. Again, that's not the point, Kevin. When you have issues with your appearance, it doesn't matter if everyone else would be happy with the outcome of it. It's about you and how you feel about yourself, and it doesn't matter about anyone else. At the dinner, Danny starts to get emotional, and Kevin, being Kevin, throws his arms up and rolls his eyes at his wife for dare having feelings, as if his wife isn't on medication for anxiety and clearly has issues with her self-esteem. The least he could do is be more empathetic towards her, and he keeps telling her how she should feel, but that makes it even worse because when you have body image issues, like, I know I should feel good about it, but I don't. And that's okay. You can't change the fact that you don't. It's not an easy, quick fix.
Danny, I don't want to see you upset.
It's disappointing.
I think Danielle feels a lot of pressure to look a certain way.
Stuff moves fast in this episode though, because Kevin then gets a phone call that he is set to host Live with Kelly on extremely short notice. He clearly wants Danny as well to go with him to the shooting, but Danny, being our insecure girly, mentions she doesn't want to be in the way of other people at the shooting, and she feels like when she attends these things, no one knows where to place her, like no one knows where to put her. To which Kevin says, you are my wife, you're allowed to be anywhere I'm allowed to be. And like, yes, Kevin, that's right. Kevin finally said something right. But he does actually take a hint, and he takes the pressure off of Danny and says, you know what, you can take the day off, stay at home, watch from home, and I'll go on my own. And he wasn't being mean or moody about it, he was being very genuine, and I'm so glad.
Okay, how about this? This time, hang here, take the day, just watch it, that's all, okay? But I have to go, right?
Sure?
Mm-hmm.
Very sure.
Uh-huh, I love you. Bye, girls.
Once the show is over, once he's done filming Live with Kelly, he heads home, but the house is empty, which is suspicious. Danny isn't home, and whilst he's taking a stroll in the garden, he receives a distressing phone call from Danny telling him she's been in an accident on Route 46 and he needs to hurry and get there immediately. Of course the man freaks out. He's just been told his wife's in an accident and that he needs to get there ASAP, so things aren't looking good. Thank God, amidst all of it, amidst all the nerves and him freaking out, he remembers to pick up both the dogs and throw them back into the house. After he does that, he bolts for it. He gets in that car and he's gone. Like, he's clearing 100 meter in seconds. From the photos they show on the episode, the crash does look quite bad. I think that's good though, cool in this instance, that we don't get any actual footage from the reality show and it's just the photos from the crash. Because when we get iPhone footage from Kevin later in the day with Danny in bed, she does seem to be quite, drained from this incident, as she would be, and she's all tucked up in bed. There's a bruise around her eye, and she's got quite a nasty bruise on her shoulder blade? Is that your shoulder blade? She's got a nasty bruise there regardless from where your seatbelt would be. And thank God she had the seatbelt on. 2 days after the accident, Dina brings over the Social Life magazine, and Danny is actually quite happy with it. She's I think come to terms with it, and she's realised it's not as bad as she thought, and she actually does quite like it, which I'm glad to see.
Oh wow. I didn't know that was going to come out that nice. I really can't believe how these photos came out. I'm shocked.
Kevin comments on how good Danny's butt looks, and fair enough, it does look good. She has her booty popping. But they also discuss how Danny still hasn't driven since the accident, but mind you, it's only been a couple days, so that's normal. Now, we are past the halfway point of the season. We are on to episode 6, In-Laws and In Studio. So that means we're going to get some Jonas Brother action. Celebrations are in order though. Katie has graduated. Whoop whoop, excitement all around. We do learn though in this episode that the Kevin and Danny house smells like absolute shit. And that is because the dog literally is shitting around the house and pissing everywhere, so it's not helping. Kevin even gets the blue light out, and their floor is gross. They need to clean it in ASAP or rip those carpets up.
You gotta be kidding me. Oh my god, it's like a freaking crime scene.
Back about the graduation, sorry, my mind just flipped there. Big shocker. Kevin and Danny are going to throw a party. I don't know if we've got an episode without throwing a party. Again, am I watching the Vampire Diaries? Because Kevin and Danny throw a party every single episode. They were booked and busy. Whilst Danny is party planning though, Kevin has the dog trainer come over because he's done with their shit. And literally, Babette Haggerty is the dog trainer. What an icon, what a legend. She comes in and Danny has her pen and paper ready to take notes. When remember how Kevin said Danny's parents tend to show up uninvited just on a whim because they just, I think, have keys to the house. They must do. Well, here they are. Bucky and Angela, everyone. They're in the house. And then only a couple minutes pass and Dina and Brian are in the house. We have a full house, minus Katie. But we have a full house. Kevin gets back to business with the dog trainer whilst Danny continues on with her party planning. Well, not just Danny. Bucky, Angela and Dina all decide to chime in too. It does get kind of awkward though when the Delisas have a few disagreements whilst party planning and the dog trainer is just smiling in the background because what else are you going to do, bestie? And I hope she's being paid well. Danny takes her older sister Dina to the side for a moment though to have a chat with her, and Dina is all like, you don't know how to throw a party, you get too stressed and anxious and scatterbrained. And to that Danny says, that's so rude, that's mean. And you know what, she may have a point. Especially since Dina did just show up to the house unannounced and then immediately started to sit at Danny's laptop and take over all of the party planning activities when Danny never asked. The whole family just assumed. But hey, Dina can't help but have older sister syndrome. Despite the argument though that Dina and Danny had, the Delisas do go to a party venue with Danny to check out the venue and see if it'd be okay for the party. But they all tell her they would rather drop dead than have the party at the venue Danny has chosen.
Sounds boring to me. I
You
can
want the
imagine
circus
what it'll be
Soleil?
like for them.
This is boring to you.
Yes.
Unless you have George Washington's ghost show up. I don't know about this.
Dina literally says the only way for Danny to save this party at this specific venue is if George Washington's ghost was to show up. And the family did have a point though, because Dina did choose a very posh banquet looking room. And this is a party for teenagers. It's not a charity event, it's a teenage party for graduation. So Dina may have had a few points in saying that Danny doesn't really know how to handle this party. Back in the studio with the Jonas Brothers though, Kevin lets us know this time around that he is feeling the pressure way more. And boy do we hear it in his voice. He has his J-Lo moment, let's put it like that. At one point he starts to moan into the mic, and Joe puts a stop to it immediately.
Not that. Don't want to hear that.
No, none of that. None of that, Kevin! Sorry.
Kevin does another take. Again, such a J-Lo moment, because he can't quite find the right pitch or note. And we just see Nick get more and more frustrated because he knows, and everybody knows, Nick would be able to hit that note in his sleep. He even starts to demonstrate the note to Kevin, but even after all of that, Kevin still doesn't find it. He still can't get the right pitch. And Nick looks like he wants to give up on life. Back to party planning though. Whee! Katie has joined the girls and she lets it be known that she would just rather have the party in the backyard of Danny and Kevin's house, but Danny doesn't really want to do that because she said she also wants to enjoy the party, and I understand because there's a complete difference between hosting a party at your place rather than a dedicated venue somewhere else where you can also enjoy your time. Danny continues to defend herself and tells Dina to just let her throw this party on her own. She doesn't want anyone else's input. When Dina is then rude for no reason and says, well, when have you ever thrown a good party? Excuse me? It was so uncalled for. If anything was mean this episode, that was mean. In the studio with the Jonas Brothers, Kevin continues to struggle to find the note. He struggles so badly that they decide they just need to change the note altogether because he truly had no hope in finding it. This time though, because they changed the note, he does semi-hit it.
That was the best one for sure.
He even receives a thumbs up from Nick, so that's all the reassurance he needs. But at the same point, Nick does truly look defeated. After a long day though, Danny and Kevin do return home to each other. They ask each other about their days and both of them say how tired they are. But Kevin, he keeps going on about the studio. He is self-aware though and says that he knows he's not Nick or Joe and he can't sing like them. And hey, at least he's aware of that. The more I watch this show though, the more I realise how short-tempered Kevin is, especially with Danny. It's like, she's your wife, you could lay off a little bit. And yes, I get it, when they get home it does seem like Danny's almost a bit dismissive of Kevin's issues and what he's trying to bring to her attention, but she does offer him words of encouragement, and she only says to him, hey, today's been a long day, can we please talk about this later? Like, can I just have a few minutes to myself? Which is very valid, but Kevin gets heated about it. He gets very heated. Danny then continues, I want to be in the right headspace for this conversation. I thought that's a very mature thing to say, to be like, hey, I just need 5 minutes and then we can discuss this and I'm going to be all ears. Kevin, though, then seems to not be satisfied with this, and he says he doesn't need Danny to even talk, he just needs her to listen. And fair enough, I understand that. But I think he gets a bit too much with Danny. And again, she says, okay, just let me go change into some comfy clothes and then we can talk about it. Because fair enough, you've just got home, you want to be in your comfy clothes. The first thing I do when I get home is get into comfy clothes.
We could talk about it in a few minutes.
But if I don't talk about
Let
it now...
me go upstairs and put comfy clothes
Danny,
on.
what's the point?
I'm just gonna go upstairs, man.
Danielle, stop.
Kevin really is too much sometimes, because Danny just wants 2 seconds to go upstairs and get changed. When he follows her like a hawk up those stairs, and he keeps berating her, and it just feels so childish. And Danny then does a very funny thing. She proceeds to lock Kevin out of their bedroom. Even though that's funny, it gets even funnier because Kevin asks what locking him out of the room will solve, and Danny says,
Danielle, is this really going to solve anything?
My sanity.
After 5 minutes or so, Danny does come back down the stairs to see Kevin, and she reiterates, I was only asking for 5 minutes. And she says it in a really kind and gentle way to him, and yet he had to make this whole thing about it, which was really frustrating to watch play out when it could have been so simple. But both of them do apologise to each other and all is well again. Next up in the episode though, the Jonas brothers go out to lunch with their manager, Johnny Wright, and he lets them know they're having perception problems, which I can only assume means exactly what it says on the tin, because they don't go any further to clarify what perception problems means. They just assume we know. Kevin gets defensive and says to Johnny he couldn't care what anyone thinks of the Jonas brothers as long as they like what they're making, like they themselves. And fair enough, go be a girl boss. I love that for you, believe in yourself. Kevin then also goes on to mention how he's the big brother and therefore feels it's his responsibility to take on more responsibilities within the group and, you know, start thinking about the business side more. Kevin really was taking a page out of both of his parents' books, and here it was definitely a page out of Kevin Sr.'s book. Clearly that did not go well, did it? Because we know that later on they did break up again, the Jonas brothers. So womp womp. Back at home, Danny and Dina make amends over the phone as Dina says things got tense and she didn't mean for that to happen. She trusts whatever it is Danny wants to do with Katie's graduation party. And I think Danny does hit the nail on the head with the party eventually, because she ends up taking Katie to the pier for the graduation party. And there's also a surprise though, because behind this circus looking tent, all of her friends are in there ready to say surprise to Katie, and it's a really nice little moment. They end the night by having everyone go into the Ferris wheel. We've got Bucky and Angela, Dina and Brian, and of course Kevin and Danny. What is funny though is that whilst they're on this Ferris wheel, you can tell that they were really squished with the cameraman, because obviously it's a Ferris wheel, these bucket things that people are in are so small. The angle just says it all. They were like knee to knee with the cameraman. And I can't help but think about how awkward that would have been to be like all mushy with your loved one, because I'm not a PDA person, but they were like all like, oh, I love you, mwah. And then there's a cameraman just there. This brings us now to episode 7, In-Laws and Outdoors. This episode taught me I'm never going to see the Jonas brothers in concert. I don't know, this man was joking, and I pray he is. But Joe, Kevin, Danny, Dina and Katie are all in the car together when Danny mentions how piss poor Joe and Kevin's bowels are. Which ironically is how they found out like Nick had diabetes, because I remember they kept mentioning he had to pee like every 15 minutes. But apparently Kevin and Joe aren't so different. They also need to pee like every hour. And then Kevin gives us this tidbit of information about how when they're on stage, they have a pee bucket on the side of the stage so that the Jonas brothers can go and pee into it during the show.
You have like a bucket on the side of the stage that you go?
Yes.
Ew, really?
Yeah, you know that.
I didn't know that.
Me and Joe would pee like 2 or 3 times during the show.
Ew.
And I think Katie or Dina asks, who deals with the bucket? And then Kevin's all like, oh yeah, one of the crew members. And rightfully so. Dina was like, do the crew members get paid more for having to deal with their pee bucket, because they should, because that's gross. So yeah, I would not recommend seeing them on concert. Kevin, Bucky and Mikey, call him what you want, go shopping for camping together, and really this is Bucky's show. Let's not get it twisted, this is Bucky's show. But basically they're all going camping together because Kevin has a baby bucket list, things he wants to do before he has a baby with Danny, and one of those things is camping, along with like jet skiing, going on tour and travelling the world. And Kevin also believes camping is like a test. It's a test to see how strong Danny truly is, and if she can handle camping, then she can handle the toddler, because those things are one and the same. There is totally no better comparison he could have pulled out of his ass. When talking about camping though, the boys kind of get into how they don't think any of their wives or any of Bucky's daughters are gonna want to like camp, like they're just not gonna enjoy this. And Bucky even mentions how his wife, she's not built for camping, and he then proceeds to say,
I would rather stand on a corner and allow people just to beat me senseless
than go camping with his wife and daughters. His one-liners as well aren't finished yet. He continues. They talk about how there's guns there, and Bucky says,
better get a gun that I can use on myself.
Oh my god. Ooh. Bucky, thank you for making this show so much more interesting than it ever had to be. Back at the Danny and Kevin residence though, all the Delisa women are there, and Kevin says he has a surprise for them. Now, being in a boy band, you think Kevin would understand the demographic of young women, and just women, and understand what most women get excited about. And that is definitely not camping, at least as well for me personally. Camping is not something I ever want to partake in. But can you guess what his surprise is? You should be able to, considering we just talked about it. Camping! Wow! Safe to say that the Lisa women are not all that hyped for it. Minus Katie. Katie's kind of hyped. She's kind of excited. Picking some things out from the equipment the boys had bought at the camping shop, Dina puts on this mosquito net face thing, and Kevin asks, who are you mourning? And Dina says, myself, because I'm going on this trip. Oh, I swear, some of the lines in this show are so funny. Like, this is comedy gold, and they didn't even intend for that. Before they depart, we have some drama. Keep this in mind, they are only going for one night only. And who out here packs a whole ass suitcase for the trip? Dina. At first I thought they just had it just to add some plot points here, just to be funny. But no, Dina fully opens a suitcase and it's just filled to the brim with stuff. She has 3 pairs of shoes for a one-night trip. So because of this, Danny helps Dina unpack her suitcase, and somehow, I'm not sure, but the conversation skews to if there will be outlets on the trip, out in the middle of nowhere, in nature. And Katie bets $20 that there will be an outlet in this camping ground place. But Bucky wastes no time in humbling Katie by saying,
What do you think there is?
I bet you $20
There is no outlet.
that there is outlet.
You don't have $20.
you don't have $20. When they finally arrive at the campground, basically a bit of land near this lake, Angela is so me. She is questioning everything, like, where is everyone else? What's in the woods? How will anyone hear you scream? And because of this, Danny and Kevin start to worry that Angela's going to make a break for it and leave before they can make their special announcement.
I think my mom's having a heart attack.
She's got to stay. We really have a big announcement to tell them, and she has to be here for it.
And you would never guess what the special announcement is. You really wouldn't. For the moment, though, they keep their eyes on Angela, and she is staying. Kevin is put to tent duty. And to Angela's dismay, he does manage to get the tents up because she was hoping he would fail in getting the tents up, so therefore she could go home. But the tents eventually all go up, and Kevin decides the next thing they need to do is rafting. Because, putting Angela even more out of her comfort zone will help her want to stay. That's for sure. Totally no-brainer. Whilst they're out on the raft though, Angela keeps getting attacked by like dragonflies, but I know she can fight because she uses the back of her paddle to like jab the bugs, and I love a woman that can fight. Sign me up. Later on, during golden hour, the gang starts to fish, and Kevin makes sure all of the women get to hold a worm. You haven't been camping if you don't hold a worm.
I'm done fishing.
Dina, grab.
I
can't
Read
grab
it.
it.
Dina,
Look at it.
it's a worm. It's not the end.
I know, but it's a really big.
When they protest about holding the worm, he lets them know it's not the end of the world. Kevin, none of them said it was. They just don't want to hold a bug. Even at one point, Dani is so fed up with Kevin, she's very much like, Kevin, I'm going to leave you here if you make me hold a worm. As he continues to hold one towards her face. And here he comes again, comparing holding a worm to looking after a toddler. They cut him off before he can finish his sentence, but I know he was about to start talking like that rubbish about how, oh, but if Dani can't handle a worm, then how can she handle a baby? This man sometimes is on my last nerve. They then repeat the same scene from about 10 minutes ago in the episode. Kevin asks Dani how she thinks her mother is doing, and Dani replies she thinks her mother is having a heart attack. They had this literal same discussion 10 minutes ago, maybe even 8 minutes ago. They just said rinse and repeat. And Kevin reiterates again, putting emphasis on this big announcement that Angela needs to be here for the big announcement. The both of them discuss when this big announcement should be, to which Dani believes it should be when they're making s'mores, but Kevin's like, nah, no. They need to have this big announcement when they're at their lowest. We need to deliver this big announcement to them at breakfast so that they are at their lowest of lows. They've had the worst night, barely any sleep, and then we can hit them with this great news. I mean, I think Kevin even calls it like the best news of their life. They're really leaning into making us believe it's going to be one thing for this announcement, but I'm still telling you, you won't guess what the announcement actually is. In my eyes, though, they did a pretty poor job of keeping an eye on Angela because she starts to conspire with the others about how to escape. She grabs Dina in one of the tents and is like, hey, what if I pretend I'm starting to feel sick because of the food and therefore we can go home? Dina's not really completely on board with it, but Angela takes it as, yeah, she's on board. So then she goes to recruit even more people. She goes to Dani, she goes to Michael, and she's telling him about her master plan. She was definitely reaching the wrong audience because, I mean, Michael was hyped for camping. He literally went shopping with the boys to go camping. He's not turning his back on this mission now. So once the stars are out, Angela starts on her master plan. But who'd have guessed all goes wrong because all of her kids rat her out immediately. They're like, no mum, you're fine. Like, suck it up. You're fine. You're staying. It is hilarious how everyone she recruited immediately turned their back on her. Poor Angela. Definitely not settling her nerves, Angela hears a crack in the woods and she is prepared to run for her life. Everyone jokes around and pokes fun at her, saying it's just a squirrel and that the woods tend to make noises at night time. But I understand you, Angela. I too would be concerned about hearing these mysterious noises. It also doesn't help though that our legend Bucky throws stuff at Angela, making her think like bugs and stuff are attacking her.
Oh, you know, that's it. I'm sitting by the fire.
The poor woman, she is being tormented, but it's so funny. And after they have finished tormenting her, Kevin talks about how he wants to go on tour again and how touring's happening and how they're going to start the tour on the date 10, 11, 12. And he made a point of mentioning that in the previous episode about the tour being on 10, 11, 12 because it's easy to remember. And Kevin does keep patting himself on the back for the tour date starting on 10, 11, 12. Although if you're in the UK, it'll be 11, 10, 12? Yeah. But Dani mentions how touring isn't all that glamorous and it's a completely different lifestyle. And Kevin starts to ask her family if they can watch the house when they're gone, even though Dani's not sure about wanting to tour. And Dani even then retorts, no, it's fine, like, I'm not leaving, I'm not going on tour, my parents don't need to watch this house. And fair enough, I hate leaving the house. I can't imagine having to leave it for months on end. Kevin being Kevin rolls his eyes at Dani and already looks pissed at her that she would even suggest the idea that she doesn't enjoy touring. She mentions how 2 to 3 months of touring is enough for her because she also wants to be able to do things for herself, for her own life. Because, and this might be shocking for Kevin, but women also have lives outside of their husbands. I have noticed he struggles with that in this show and it's kind of concerning. It's also truly frustrating to see Kevin yet again not understand where Dani is coming from with her concerns, because she carries on talking about how she wants to focus on herself and have something for herself. She's tempted to start volunteering maybe just to have her own thing and not be following her husband around all the time.
Why aren't you going, baby?
Because sometimes I need to do things that'll make me my own person too.
But to this Kevin replies, I do a better show when you're there. Like, talk about a really selfish response to Dani expressing a very human need of wanting to have your own individuality. Kevin tries to then be manipulative by asking Angela how she would enjoy spending Christmas and Thanksgiving on the road with them, basically trying to go around Danny and use Angela to side with him so that Danny would feel more inclined to agree. But Danny isn't having it, and she's like, why don't you ask me? Katie unnecessarily instigates.
But don't you think that Kevin's done a lot by, moving to New Jersey?
By saying, well, don't you think Kevin's done a lot for you by moving out to New Jersey? And it's just, again, that's not the point, Katie. I'm not going to harp on her too much though, because she is the youngest on the show and I think she's only 17 at this point. But what she said wasn't really helpful at all. And like, come on, stand up for your sister. I don't care what's going on. You stand with your sister. Katie then goes on to say, he's just asking for a year. That's a long time, and it's an extremely long time to lose yourself in someone else and not have anything for yourself. Basically, Kevin's quite a whiny bitch on this show, to put it bluntly, and I think we see how Danny has to really adapt her lifestyle a lot and fit her schedule in with him to make the relationship work. Anyway, so it's the end of the night, everyone sleeps, and now they have the start to a new day, a brand new day. Everyone is semi-miserable. It's cold, no one slept that well, and all they want to do is eat some breakfast. So finally, Kevin swoops in. He's like, yes, my family are finally at the low of lows. And he assembles everyone for the grand announcement. Angela is quaking in her boots. She's worried Kevin's telling them that the surprise is another night at the campground. But, drumroll please.
In about a week and a half, we're all going to Florence.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are. We're going to Italy.
That's right. I know what you all thought, though. I know you all thought Danny was pregnant, but she's not. That's not the announcement. And yes, they were trying to make us believe that the announcement really was going to be that she's pregnant. They knew what they were doing. Everyone is excited about this announcement. They were all like, woo, we're going to Italy. Except Angela. Angela, not that excited. She is how most viewers probably felt, as she says, I would have preferred you were pregnant. Turns out though, the only reason Angela said this is because she has a horrible fear of flying, so no wonder she seems so unexcited about Italy, because I too have a fear of flying. I don't want to be up in the sky. It would make me be filled with so much terror to be like, oh, you're going on a plane? Like, you've booked me a flight on a plane? Because Angela's like, Kevin, I didn't ask you to buy me a seat on the plane. Why'd you do that? So yeah, I'd have a heart attack. Not getting up on a plane, not getting in a tin can in the sky. Now we have our two-parter, Italy with the In-Laws Part 1, Episode 8. It's time to pack for the big trip to Italy. Kevin's touring knowledge does come in clutch though, because Danny worries that everything's going to get creased with the way he's packing, and he's like, everything gets creased. Just ask them to steam it when you get there. Steam it? Never heard something so upper class in my life, because I've never steamed anything, I don't think. I've only ever been to the dry cleaners like twice, but apart from that, I just use a flat, like an iron, we just iron things here, ourselves. I've never had anyone steam anything, and when I go to hotels, they don't even offer to steam things, they just have like the ironing things in the room, and if that, sometimes they don't even have an ironing board or an iron. But good news for everyone, Angela is packing to go on holiday. She said, ignorance is your new best friend. She keeps herself in denial by avoiding the fact that she's going on a plane and avoiding the fact that she's going to Italy by pretending she's not going anywhere. She's just thinking about packing. She's not thinking about travelling. Because as well this is a vacation, Kevin makes it a rule that he does not want to go on his phone during the vacation, like pick up any phone calls or answer any phone calls, and he gives Danny permission to kick him in the balls if he does so. But I do recognise not answering the phone as a Jonas brother, as a celebrity, is probably very hard to do, because you're probably always receiving phone calls from people telling you need to be there, you need to do this, you need to do that. All of the family, and I mean all of the family, yeah, that's including my girl Angela, yeah, Angela's on board, she's on the plane, she is present. But boy oh boy does she look stressed. I know an anxious face when I see one, and Kevin's got like his little iPhone footage out filming Angela, and I know that heart was beating out her chest.
Is it better to be flying with all of us being here together though, as a family?
Because I'm, again, so scared of flying, so I understand how she feels. Like, I don't want to do flying, I never want to do flying, but I'm never going to sign myself up willingly for it, but if I have to go, I will. They all safely arrive to Florence, Italy, and it looks stunning. You've got people on Vespers, and everything just looks way more vibrant there. I do think it's so pretty when you go abroad to like Spain, Italy, and France. They're just such pretty places. You know what's extremely vibrant though? The money. They arrive at the Four Seasons. Yes, that's right. The Four Seasons. Anyone who knows anything about hotels knows how expensive the Four Seasons hotels are, and Kevin and Danny's room is literally bigger than most people's apartments. Bigger than any apartment I've ever visited, and it's bigger than some houses I've visited. It looks fit for royalty, to say the least. A funny part of the room tour though, and it makes me genuinely giggle thinking that any of them may have used this for its unintended purpose, but Mikey turns to the bidet and says they have their own water fountain. Like, he's so impressed that they have a water fountain in their room.
They got a water fountain.
It's for Brian. He likes to drink out of the water fountain.
Like, no, bestie, that's not a water fountain. That's to clean your asshole. Please do not put your mouth anywhere near that. When they're out at dinner, though, Bucky does get quite sentimental at the Four Seasons because he says how amazing it is and how he could have never believed that his whole family would be here in Italy together having a dinner or just going on holiday together in Italy. Like, he's really, truly having a moment, especially as well now because everyone's older, and he's saying, you know, how with jobs and things, you know, you would know yourself, it's hard to get a family to go on holiday together once you grow up because everyone's got their own things that they need to do and no one's timelines really match up. And I can imagine that's only harder when your son-in-law, you know, is this rock star and he's got this busy life, so it must be near damn impossible to ever get Danny and Kevin to do anything. The mood does slightly shift though when they're at dinner, and Angela mentions all that needs to happen next is grandchildren. Kevin tries to shift the pressure onto Dina, but Dina just rolls her eyes. He's like, oh Dina, your turn. And you can see how both daughters are affected by the comment. Turns out though it does dig a little deeper than just what Angela said, and I don't think it's even that bothered Danny so much at this dinner. Danny opens up to her family about how she's been struggling with her anxiety even more now. Since the crash, she keeps getting panic attacks, like it's getting worse. It's quite a physical thing now. In their hotel room the next day, following the theme of Danny's anxiety, she looks stressed. He asks her how she is, and she does look stressed. She keeps telling him she doesn't feel great, and then goes on to explain how she is always masking her feelings so she can keep pushing on to do whatever it is Kevin needs and wants. And of course, at a certain point, she hits a wall. And like, girly, you need to breathe. You need to do things for yourself. It's so clear that she needs space or just, you know, her own individuality. She informs Kevin she is back on her anxiety meds, and for this is a big deal to her because it means that her dream of having kids has to be put on hold because she does not want to have children while she's on these anxiety meds. And she also lets Kevin know that when she says she's stressed, for her, it's not like everyone else. When everyone else says they're stressed, they're just stressed. But for her, it means like she literally feels like she's dying on the inside, and she is in her eyes. And so, you know, like I'm saying, the quest for a baby put on hold, and that's obviously a big issue for Danny because she really does want a family. And she even says, you know, she doesn't even think she could handle the pregnancy with how anxious her body is and how anxious she is right now. The saddest part for me though is when Danny is talking about this, she blames herself for going back onto the meds, but it's not your fault that that's how your brain works and you can't help it. Sure, there's things you can do, but at the end of the day, you're not always in control of your anxiety, and it's going to pop up here and there, especially when you're going through this much stress. What would help her anxiety though in my eyes is if Kevin was maybe less reactive to things she says sometimes. But what do I know? Danny goes on to explain to Kevin that it is a lot to follow in his footsteps, and this isn't, you know, something that she's built for. She's not used to Kevin's life. But in true Kevin fashion, he turns around and says, "It seems like you're blaming me." Say it with me. That's not the point, Kevin.
You're blaming me for feeling
because I
this
feel
way.
like nothing was made easier for me to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish.
Decode what she's saying for once. Please, like, read between the lines or just, like, understand basic human consumption. I don't know, like, just media literacy, please. Listen to her. She's kind of just putting it out there. She's saying she needs her own identity. She needs her own thing. And he just can't seem to understand that. And to me, it's like so clear that's such a big root of her anxiety here. Danny then kind of reiterates what she's been saying throughout the whole show, that she wants to have control over her life for once and do things her way. And she feels that that's been made impossible for her. Kevin, kind of proving her point, turns everything around on Danny when, may I point out, she wasn't even blaming him, and says, "You're taking what you're feeling and turning it around on me." And maybe yes, because you have been putting pressure on her. Like, how dare she state how she's feeling? He's kind of like saying, it's not really that valid. And I hate how he talks to her with this condescending tone so much of the time in this show. Like, she's dumb, which definitely does not help someone who's anxious to talk down to them like that. He then goes on to say, I don't want to look 5 years down the road and think that's the thing that ruined us. But then make it change. Help your wife. For once say you understand her, because poor Dani then starts to break down and says how her heart is literally broken and what she's feeling is real. And yes, Dani, stand your ground. What you feel is real, and it sucks that her heart is broken and he just does not seem to grasp it. Kevin continues to miss the points that Dani's making, and he says to her, you're not weak, you know, you're this, you're that, you're strong, and that soon things will calm down for them. But the root of the problem for Dani here is a lack of sense of like self, a lack of individualism. It's just so much, and he just keeps missing the point, and it's so frustrating to see, and it constantly happens throughout the show. So I'm just going to warn you, if you go ahead and watch this, you're going to see a lot of that. Now, I think we need a moment of levity after that intense discussion about the relationship between Kevin and Dani. So let's have a little bit of time for Bucky. Bucky's plan for the day, he doesn't care what his family is doing. He's making sure he's getting some gelato. He doesn't care if they don't want to. It's on his list, and he's doing it. I love that so much for Bucky, and whilst the rest of them are out sightseeing, they lose Bucky, and I think you all know what he's doing. Eating gelato. Who is ready to hear as well one of Bucky's golden lines in this show? What are his wise words of the day, you may ask?
I can see the architecture and everything in a book, but I ain't gonna taste no gelato in no book.
And scene. Things get a little hectic though whilst out and about with Kevin Jonas, because again, he is a Jonas brother, and the general public start to pick up on the fact that there is a Jonas brother. There's 1/3 of the Jonas brothers out on the streets in Italy. A big crowd starts to form around them, and you know, they keep moving along with them, this big crowd, and Dina starts to feel kind of anxious about it. She's like, oh, I'm not used to this. This is very weird. It's strange, and it makes her feel kind of claustrophobic. And I find it kind of funny when they say all of this though, because whilst walking, the crowd kind of dies down. Like, sure, it was hectic for about a moment, but when they start saying all this stuff about being too hectic, it doesn't look too hectic. And maybe it's a perception thing. Maybe you had to be there to feel it. But the crowd doesn't seem too big anymore. It definitely seems to have fizzled out. And it's kind of funny. Because again, no offense, but he's Kevin Jonas. He's not Nick or Joe. I'm sorry. Feels like you're not allowed to say that out loud. When they're out for dinner though, Kevin does break the golden rule of not going on his phone, and he answers a work call.
Excuse me guys, I gotta take this.
You got ripped apart.
Hello?
So by his logic, Dani is allowed to actually kick him in the balls, and I think she should take him up on it. Turns out the phone call was from the office, and it is somewhat urgent. I'm back in the hotel, and they call Kevin again, and disaster strikes. The call was about Kevin being on this large music reality program that Kevin kind of really wants to be on, but the only time they can see him is tomorrow, as in one of his vacation days, as in he would have to leave the vacation early to do a work thing. So if he goes, he's cutting it short, and as well as that, he'll be disappointing Dani. And her family, to be fair. This leads us to some of the last episodes of the season. Episode 9, Italy with the In-Laws Part 2. Kevin is perplexed. He has no idea what to do with this situation. He asks Dani if she would be upset if he left, and she's like, of course she wants him to stay, but also how can she be the one to hold him back?
Of course I care that you're here. Of course it's upsetting that you're leaving, but how could I say, like, you really need to stay or make you feel guilty when I know that's what you've been working for?
It's a very difficult situation to be in as a partner. Supporting him has started to drain her. It's definitely showed up a lot. And because it also goes against her own happiness, of course she wants her husband to stay on holiday with her. A lot of this show is just Dani sacrificing her own happiness for Kevin. He gets back on the phone with the office to see if the reality show can maybe wait a couple days and if they can do it at a later date, but they let him know that they really can't wait and it's now or never. So because of this, Kevin starts packing because he wants to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice if he does decide to go. Dani is upset about this and notes how hard it is to enjoy anything together because there's always something that comes up. She is very mature about these situations though, and it must be very hard for her to deal with them, but she does say to Kevin that he can't blame himself and that she can't blame him, but that doesn't make it any easier on her. Facts. Girly facts. For the first time this season though, Kevin actually makes me smile. He says the right thing is so rare.
This is a choice that I'm making. I'm making it because I want to be here with you. Okay?
I appreciate
I want to
that,
experience these things with you.
He decides to stay in Italy with Dani as she is way more important to him, especially with her health at the moment. And he lets her know she's not stopping him. This is his decision. This is what he wants. And that she is not stopping anything. Like, not to put any pressure on her there. You've not ruined anything for me. Everyone then celebrates that Kevin is in fact staying. And they head out for their next adventure. Kevin spots some fans outside of the hotel and he is kind enough to offer them up his vacation time, and he offers like if they want to get a photo and an autograph. One of the girls gets so overwhelmed that she starts to cry, and fair enough, I know people do get very emotional when meeting their favourite celebrities. Kevin even checks in with her and makes sure that it's happy tears and that she is okay and everything's alright. The kind of down bad that you gotta be to cry over a celebrity is next level. I've never personally done it. I've been very excited meeting them, but I've never wanted to cry over meeting them, so I can't imagine how down bad you have to be, especially if it's over Kevin, not Nick or Joe. Like, maybe one of them two I understand, but Kevin? Oh, I feel so bad. Kevin, if you're watching this, I don't hate you. I swear I don't. And all jokes aside, I have heard from fans that Kevin is actually one of the nicest Jonas brothers out of them. Like, he takes more time with fans and he just seems more personable. So I'm not coming for your neck, my guy. Now again, you may be wondering, because I mentioned that they were leaving the hotel to go for their next adventure. Where are they headed? They went to go and make wine. So the whole crew gets in on crushing some grapes. Kevin actually as well tries the wine that everyone stepped on, and it's so gross. It looks like swamp water.
Kevin!
Oh, yeah. It's good, it's good.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really
I have
sweet.
athlete's foot. There's a hair.
I could not be paid to drink juice that my family had stepped on with their toes. No, not happening. He even says there's hair in it. He has hair in the juice. They aren't done making things though, because up next is pizza, and Bucky is in his element. I want to love food as much as Bucky does. He's such an inspiration. That is my man. He sat there trying to down his whole pizza, and Angela's like, no, Bucky, stop it. And he still goes for it. And I love it. After dinner though, Dani and Dina have a very important conversation. Dina tries to explain to Dani that she needs to stop putting everyone else's needs before her own, and that the whole family is worried about her.
Personally, and we just want you to be happy, and we know you're trying to make everybody else happy, but you're not happy.
Dina clarifies it's not because of Kevin that they're worried, but because of her anxiety. And I'm just going to say, I don't think Kevin's really been helping. I don't think he's been helping her anxiety in this show. I truly don't. Dina does have some good advice though. She tells Dani she needs to be more strict with the time Kevin and Dani have for each other. And I think Dani would love that. But I don't know how Kevin feels about Dani having her own time. He does not seem to be a big fan of it in the show. Dani then goes on to say as well, it's hard to do things with Kevin, and she wants to do things with him that are normal, but Dina comes in clutch and she's like, none of this is normal. You were dating a celebrity. This is not normal. Dani does understand that. She totally is aware that she's dating a celebrity and that this is her life, but she's also aware that she does not want to be another like celebrity statistic of a failed marriage. She wants this very much to work, and you can see she really is putting the effort in to make this work with Kevin. Also, it's so refreshing to see Dina also agree in that Dani needs to work on herself. She even said that to her. She's like, you need to work on yourself. Hallelujah. She truly needs her own identity away from Kevin. It's the final day in Italy. We have the whole Americans discover walkable cities topic come up at dinner, or I think it's at lunch, because Kevin talks about how he's lost so much weight on this trip, and he puts it down to the food. And sure, we can give the food some of the credit, but I mainly think it's because they're probably walking so much, because they're in a walkable city. Like, most of Europe is quite walkable, and I think they don't really realise that when they're there, because they keep saying about the food, and I think, again, maybe the food is to take some credit, but I think the most part is they've been walking day in, day out when they've been on this holiday. I could not imagine not living in a walkable city. I love it so much. Proving my point, Kevin and Dani go on a walk together, and again, he lets us know Dani is his number one priority, and she is the main person and thing above all things that he cares about. For once, they have a conversation that does not end with Kevin getting heated, and they both talk about how they need to be better at communicating their needs to one another and try and get back to how they used to be.
I can do a better job, but I really do need you to talk to me a little bit more. If you're upset and you're frustrated and you're dealing with something, I'm not a mind reader.
We just need to figure had to go back to where we first were and
Okay.
deal with those ways.
This brings us to the final episode of season 1, when in-laws collide. The Jonas brothers are playing ping pong together and the boys are catching up. Kevin asks them how was Fashion Week, to which Nick replies, fashionable. Playtime's over though, and the boys get to work in the studio, and Nick and Joe are laying down the vocals. Safe to say though, the boys are a bit nervous because it's been 2.5 years since the last Jonas Brothers show at this point, and they are set to play Radio City, which is not a small venue, and it's all going to be live streamed. They then go on to explain it takes them usually 2 to 3 shows to get back into the swing of things, so don't go see them on opening night is what I heard. Don't do it. We learn as well the reason for this first break of theirs was so that the boys could go off and do their own things. Kevin could spend time at home with his wife for 2 years or however long it was, and Joe could go and make solo music. And I think, did Nick also make solo music at this point? Maybe, maybe not. But I know as well they have another break after this. I'm pretty sure they had their long break, the break of all breaks. Well, we thought they were really over. But yeah, safe to say Kevin is nervous about how this show is gonna go. Since everyone is in town for this big Radio City show, it means that both the Jonases and the DeLisas will be coming over to Kevin and Danny's for dinner. The in-laws are meeting for once. Both of them are a bit nervous about it, but safe to say Danny is way more nervous than Kevin. Who would have guessed? But she is. She's way more nervous than Kevin, because she just wants all of them to get along. The DeLisas arrive to the residence and Angela wonders if there will be an announcement, to which Dina says there doesn't always have to be an announcement. Bucky, being my favourite, makes his own announcement.
I'll give you an announcement. After this dinner, I'm going to go on a diet. How's that for an announcement?
Oh, yeah.
I truly did not expect Bucky to grow on me so much in this show, but he did, and therefore, because of him, I will watch season 2 just for him. After Danny conquers the quest of lighting 100 candles to put into the pool to impress the Jonases arrive. And I know what you are all wondering. And yes, Frankie Jonas is in the building. I'm also happy to announce everyone gets along, all goes well, and Danny gets to breathe. It's also really nice that Kevin Sr. didn't turn the family gathering into a business meeting, and it's also really lovely to see a wholesome moment between Danny and Denise, the Jonas Brothers' mum, in case you forgot who she was because she hasn't been in this for a hot second. Denise basically says to Danny about how she doesn't need to feel insecure around her and that they need to be each other's cheerleaders.
But don't compare yourself to me because, I mean, I'm not... I just need to be able to, we just need to be each other's cheerleader. I just want you to feel comfortable, and especially around me. I don't want to bring you any discomfort and feel like I add pressure to you and you have to worry about what I'm going to think.
And this is what I want to see. This is what I've been saying this entire time. We love seeing women supporting women. Fast forward though to more intense matters. It is now the day of the Radio City concert and they have 3 hours until showtime. Kevin starts to have a panic attack because of the pressure of the show and having to get back into the groove of things, and you know, obviously it's a lot of pressure. He's going to be performing in front of I think 6,000 people.
What's the matter?
I'm having a panic attack.
Why?
A little bit. This is a big deal. I'm doing this now. I'm clenching.
What are you most excited about?
Just getting through the show.
I also imagine it's quite nerve-wracking having both sides of the family present at this show. Powering through 2.5 hours till showtime, and Kevin finally arrives at the venue in time to sign some autographs for his fans that are waiting outside, and he does also take photos. Danny kind of just like stands back and people are like, Danny, love you, and you know, good for her, I'm happy. Inside the venue, Kevin, Nick and Joe figure out what Kevin will wear, and they have a cute little goofy moment together.
Spin around. Spin. You have guitar. Show me guitar in hand. We hate it. We hate it.
Joey puts on this little European accent, you know, mimicking what they've probably seen with other fashion designers whilst travelling the world. And did you know they can be goofy? Because they can. They're very goofy. They're just like us. I can't imagine though the adrenaline that must pump through them before their shows, because as they're doing their pre-show ritual and prayers, you can hear the audience and it's loud. And also, I think it's Joe who gets on the floor and does like push-ups to probably hype himself up and get the blood pumping or whatever. It probably helps distract from the fact that they're about to go on stage in front of 6,000 people and the live stream. But yeah, they're ready to go. They get on the stage, the curtains go up, and the Jonas Brothers are revealed to the world. They are out there promoting their new single at the time, Let's Go, and I'm a bit confused because I swear they released an album. Like, the whole point of this season was to show that they were releasing an album, but there isn't like an album release from 2012 because they kept talking about they were recording an album, but then they didn't release an album. So I'm so baffled from where that went. If anyone knows, let me know. It must be just maybe because they broke up and they never released that album until much later? Maybe? But regardless, they are out there on that stage, Disney knees and all, and the crowd is eating up every single moment. I know I would be if I was there. I'm still tempted to get tickets to go to their show, their postponed show, their rescheduled show for London. So I'm still thinking about that. I'm still iffy. The concert there, though, at Radio City, however, does come to a close. Confetti is spewing in the air, and it's confirmed it was a success. And the next day in the hotel room, Kevin and Danny are aware that this moment at the Radio City thing is going to change their lives once again. And Danny, yet again, is ready to support Kevin. She lets him know, like, she's ready. And she always has been. That's what she's happy doing. Good for her. But I still want her to get her own stuff, It's what we've been pioneering for this entire season. We might get there eventually. Anyway, the final thing at the end of the season that they tell us is that Danny and Kevin are trying for a baby, which is nothing new really, no surprises there, kind of expected, and I kind of just assumed that they were doing that this entire season. Because, it's the one thing that they constantly talked about the entire season. But yeah, it was a relatively tame last episode. They really relied on the Jonas Brothers to bring the drama with the whole performing and it being their first show back. But that is that. That brings us to the end of season 1 of Married to Jonas.
You're beautiful, you know that?
So are you, Macy. She's happy. Oh,
yeah, see?
all right. Love you.
I feel like I blacked out that entire time and I don't remember a single thing I just said. This show has definitely changed my opinion on the Jonas Brothers, more specifically Kevin. It was quite eye-opening, but I'm so happy I got to meet my new favourite reality TV personality, Bucky. I don't tend to watch reality TV, but I will watch season 2 just for Bucky. Just to figure out what he's up to, how's he doing, how's the heart, how's the diet, is he still doing Pilates? I want to know. He was such a legend that he always kept this show entertaining, and for the most part, he made it lighthearted when he was in it. He really was the best thing about this season. Let me know down below if you ever watched Married to Jonas. Did you watch it when it came out? Did you watch it recently? Did you even know it was a thing? Did you forget it was a thing? Let me know, and thank you so much if you made it this far. I cannot believe if you did sit through all of this, because I wouldn't expect that, because this is a show no one talks about, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really missing it. So I hope this doesn't, if you did make it this far, bravo, thank you so much. And let me know if you want to see season 2 to this deep dive of Married to Jonas. But for now, that is enough from me. I am ready to shut up for the rest of the day. My voice hurts. Thank you so much for watching. I will leave that there. Feel free to check out one of these videos. Either one you want to choose whatever one you think is best. Again, I might put up some of my other deep dives up here so you can see them as well. There's not many, but there's a couple, so enjoy.